Hello, Steve Mills here, and it's great to be back on the Results Podcast, sharing with you some more tried, tested and proven ways to grow your business. And today I've got something a little bit different. In fact, last week I was really privileged and lucky to be on a podcast of someone who's in a very short period of time I think has become a really good friend. His name is Michael de Groot, and he calls himself the storyteller. So without further ado, welcome on to the podcast, Michael, and thank you ever so much, A, for interviewing me last week and for being on my podcast this week.
Brilliant. Thank you, Steve. I'm delighted to be on your podcast, and it's my aim to get on more podcasts. Actually, I'm doing the interviewing usually, but it's good to be interviewed for a change.
Yeah.
So delighted to be here.
Well, you found out last week all about me and my life story, so I'm going to do the same thing this week for you and find out. Tell me firstly, where did the storyteller thing come from, and how did you arrive at that?
Right, great question. So I got involved with creating, let's call them for the best kind of description, adverts, video adverts for people.
Okay.
And they were very basic. They were like images with words, a voiceover, kind of image transitions and things like that.
Okay, yeah, I know the type of thing.
Yeah, and I discovered the scripts that I was getting from people were just not very good, right? So I started to change them a little bit, and I said, would you mind if I change the script a little bit? Because it's not really a story. You're just basically saying, here's my product, buy me, right? And I think that's just boring, and people are just not going to remember that. So they went, yeah, okay, you can have a go. So I started writing a story for the advert, and they went, yeah, actually, we like that. So please go ahead and use that instead. And
you carried on doing that to this day?
And I just kept going on doing that. Yeah, and therefore, with one of the things that we do is create animations, and they are now stories rather than just adverts. I mean, at the end of the day, they're stories to promote products and services.
Sure.
But they're not just, the very dry kind of, here's our product, we're the best in the world, please buy us.
I think it's a real issue for a lot of people, actually, writing copy, be that, words on a video or words on a website that are written words. A lot of people are not really skilled in it. They try to do it, and it finishes up, not as good as it could be, shall we say. And that's probably being polite. So how did what's the history to that? How did you go from, school and leaving school and stuff and eventually wind up where you are? Tell me a little bit more about your history.
All right, thank you. So I'm originally from the Netherlands.
Okay.
I was born in Amsterdam. My dad was a Dutchman and my mother was Anglo-Indian. And I mention that because it becomes important in a little while.
Okay.
And I hated school, Steve. I was not a good student. I didn't enjoy it. I was being shouted at a lot. The teachers were awful. And we moved. My father, he worked for the Bank of America. And we moved, at the age of 13, we moved to South America. And there's a country right at the top of South America, in between British Guyana and French Guyana, called Suriname. And it was like a Dutch colony, or used to be, but it no longer is, of course. It became independent. It was independent, I think, more or less when we were there. And we continued schooling. It was a bit of a culture shock, to be honest. And it was the first time in my life that I saw poverty. And it actually compels me even still today, to volunteer for people that are more vulnerable in our society. Anyway, I went to school there, didn't really get very good grades, and then we were there for about 3 years, and then we came back to the to the Netherlands, and then I had to continue my schooling then. It was really difficult to keep switching countries and to continue education.
Sure,
Education was rubbish for me. I had no interest in carrying on, doing anything, university, none of that was nowhere in my interest. So I did the equivalent of, let's call them O-levels in the Netherlands. And then my dad was, again, invited to go abroad. So he was basically went abroad and he saved banks that were nearly going bankrupt, basically. And he was like a troubleshooter. This time, though, he was being invited to either go to London or the US Virgin Islands, right in the Caribbean.
Okay.
Now, in Suriname, there are no beaches, by the way. We were at the top of South America and the beach was mud. There are no beaches. It was just clay. So we never went to the beach there. It's just jungle and clay near the sea.
Okay.
But US Virgin Islands is something totally different. They've got beautiful beaches there.
Yeah.
But my mother, I mentioned earlier, was Anglo-Indian, and she loved anything to do with England.
Okay.
You know, she was very British, and she didn't even speak with an Indian accent. She spoke like the Queen, you know, her English.
Okay, right.
And perhaps not that posh, but she spoke, you know, very good English.
Yeah.
And Dutch, in fact, as well. She learned Dutch.
Yeah.
And so, of course, she had to make the choice, and we moved to the UK. Not to London, per se, to Surrey. And we rented a house there through the bank, and we commuted then into London. Well, we didn't have a job yet when we moved here, but what happened was, and I'm saying we because I've got 2 older brothers and a twin sister.
Okay.
And the eldest brother stayed in the Netherlands, and the other 3 kids came over to the UK, and it became our home. So, of course, my parents wanted my sister and I to continue our education in the UK, but we were not that confident with our English. Our English was very good because you have to learn English as a second language in the Netherlands anyway.
Yeah.
My mother was very British, Anglo-Indian, so she spoke English at home with my dad, who worked for an American company. So when we were very young, we couldn't understand English, and they spoke in English to each other. Then we went to school. We learnt English. Now we could hear what they were talking about if they were talking about us.
Yeah.
And also in the Netherlands, you have English or American programs on TV, and they put Dutch subtitles on. So you're also learning English by watching, hearing the English, but then seeing what the translation is. So we have many ways, and we got like, in those days, they gave you like a score for your grades. We had 9s and 10s for our English because we were like top of the class.
Right.
Because we had help at home, basically.
Yeah.
So we came to the UK. I didn't want to continue my education. Was interrupted in the Netherlands when we came over. And I said, no, I'm going to look for a job. And the reason I said that, before we came over, we had to spend like 6 months doing a bit of temping work. And we did that for an uncle, and we got paid for it. So I had the taste of money.
Okay, well, that's
then
good.
Being convinced to come to the UK and study again, I went, forget it. I know what it's like to have money in my life.
Yeah.
I want to earn money.
Yeah,
so
you're going to get out there,
at the age of 17, I went job hunting in London.
Okay.
Because where we were in Surrey, Farnham in Surrey, there were just no jobs to be got there.
Okay, yeah.
And I wanted a job where I could use my Dutch, learn my English in business, obviously.
Yeah.
And that's all I was looking for. I wasn't looking for a career in any particular industry.
Right.
I landed in a company called Burlington Klopman, which was a American textile company. And they were based right in the heart of London at Oxford Circus. They had a head office there. They had factories in Ireland and then factories in Italy. and they made polyester fabric, which they supplied to all over Europe. And Marks and Spencer's was a massive customer.
All right. Okay.
That started that desire to get into into a job where I could use my Dutch. And I had my job was dealing with the Benelux office, which was based in Belgium.
Oh, okay.
So Benelux stands for Belgium, Netherlands, Luxembourg.
Okay.
And they needed somebody who could liaise in Dutch. Well, the thing was, even in Belgium, they can speak English, so it doesn't really matter. And that started a 28-year career in the textile industry.
Right. Well, wow. That's amazing.
I did everything. I joined as a sample coordinator. And I reached the dizzy heights of sales and marketing director in a number of different organizations.
Okay, great. That's where your sort of marketing sort of experience and knowledge came from, yeah?
Yes,
right, okay.
Absolutely,
yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Although it was very different there than what I might be employing today, to be honest. But yeah, it gave me the confidence to speak. It gave me the confidence to sell. It gave me this confidence to think about how to get in front of customers and market yourself. Yeah, as a company, definitely.
Fantastic. Okay.
So that was the process basically, and then after 28 years, I was getting a bit fed up with it.
Okay. Yeah.
And I had one of these, let's call them epiphanies.
Yeah.
Where, first of all, my marriage broke down.
I have one of those on a regular basis. So.
Yeah, it was a midlife crisis.
Yes.
My marriage broke down.
Okay.
I wanted to I wanted to work for myself somehow, but I didn't know what.
Okay.
And I had to look at myself, and I went on, in 2004, I went on a personal development course, and I won't tell you the whole backstory because it will just take too long why I got to this, but I went to a personal development course by a gentleman called Anthony Robbins.
Yeah, I know Tony very well. Yeah.
Yeah, it's called Unleash the Power Within in London, Excel.
Yeah, I was being myself, so
great.
Fantastic.
You're a fellow firewalker. Fantastic.
I am, yeah, indeed.
And Steve, I'll tell you what, I had never been exposed to anything like that in my life forever, until I was like standing there in this place. I had to sign a certificate to say, a waiver that you're going to walk on fire, hot coals. Yeah. And I went, yeah, it's just a trick, right? Got into the auditorium, and one of the first things that he does, about halfway through the first day, he gets you to prepare for the fire walk. And I'm going, yeah, that's just like mind games,
Yeah.
Then he took us outside. In those days, there were not as much people as there are in these days, but he took us outside and we stood around a fire. They were burning wood, and there were metal rails all around this fire, and he was talking on a microphone. There were speakers outside in the car park, and he was shouting loud, and we were saying different things, and he was introducing us to the fire and getting us the heat was fierce,
Yeah, I remember it well.
And then we went back in, and I went, that was it. In my mind, I was totally skeptical. In my mind, I'm going, was it.
So you didn't think you were going to actually walk on fire, no?
No way. I thought it was a mind trick.
Right.
Like a Darren Brown.
Yeah.
I thought it was a metaphor. And then he took us all outside, and we're all take your shoes and socks off. And I did practice all the kind of, the routine in terms of warming up for it.
Yeah.
He took us out in the car park. I can't see any fire. It's black, pitch black. I can't see anything. I can hear all these drums going.
Yeah.
People shouting, yes. Anyway, all of a sudden I'm queuing up. I went, what's all this about? I'm presented with this lane of hot coals in front of me.
I know.
And I went, oh, bleep. What is this? I've got to walk on it now. So luckily, I had rehearsed in the auditorium, and when I went out there, I walked and I didn't burn my feet. So but after I walked, because I've been so skeptical about it, I'd never done anything like it in my life. I basically felt I could do anything. I could achieve anything in life. I was indestructible now.
I remember my first walk. I thought, well, do you know what? There's several thousand people here. There's no way everybody's going to get burnt. And people, I was in the queue like you were, and people were going across and getting across without, getting burnt. And I thought, do you know what? I'm sure I can do this. But when you stand at the end of that fire and it's like your turn to step on some coals that are 1,500 degrees and walk, it's tough. It's not easy, is it? Having that, it's like every part of your brain and your body are saying, "Don't do this, Steve."
Oh my God.
And you take as Tony says, taking the first step is really difficult. Taking the second one is really easy.
Yes.
You just keep going, and till they tell you to stop. And I'm totally with you. It's an amazing experience. And anybody listening to this podcast, if you've not done the Tony Robbins thing, then go and do it. Unleash the power within. Brilliant, absolutely life changing.
And a little advert for him. For the first time, he's coming to Birmingham this year.
Oh, is he really?
Sorry,
wow.
Next year, 2020. Sorry, next year.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's coming to Birmingham, so it's not in London.
Okay.
It's in Birmingham for the first time, and so it's my kind of neck of the woods.
So are you going to go again? You're going to do it again?
Well, I've been, ever since then, this was 2004, I've been crewing following that every single year.
Right, okay.
So since 2005, I've crewed. I did it for about 6 times.
Okay.
Well, I have crewed now in total 6 times.
Right.
And I will be crewing again next year. So I started again in 2018, did this year, and I'll be doing next year. So I will have crewed about 7 times.
Wow,
but
fantastic.
it's great fun. I mean, it's voluntary. You don't get paid.
No, yeah.
You get meal vouchers, so you can get food.
Yeah.
But the experience of being immersed in that environment is just like another shot in the arm, basically. But it also tests you, because crewing is not easy at all.
No.
It's very tiring, and it's long days, but you learn a huge amount. I actually learned more crewing the first year, the first 3 years after I'd done UPW.
Yeah.
Going back crewing, I learned more about Tony Robbins' techniques and technologies than I did when I actually did the course.
Wow.
Because you get repetition with some of the crew directors. They take you through all of the different technologies for free.
Yeah.
In the kind of gaps where you're not crewing or having to do things.
Yeah.
So you get some free training from people that have been doing it, like trainers that have been doing it for a long time. So it's I never became a trainer. It's not really what I wanted to do, but anyway.
Yeah.
So after I did that, I just looked at my job in just a totally different light then. I signed up for the whole mastery program.
Right.
I did life mastery, wealth mastery first in London, life mastery in Puerto Rico,
Date with Destiny.
Date with Destiny in Australia on the Gold Coast.
Did you? Wow.
I travelled to New Zealand as well, so I was away from work for 4 weeks, which was a real struggle with my boss, because he told me I'd booked all of this, and he told me I couldn't go for such a long time. And in the end, after me sulking for 2 weeks, he allowed me to go, which was the job I then eventually left.
Yeah.
But and then I also did leadership mastery in San Diego for a week. So I had all these great technologies, understanding, or so I thought, and information that allowed me to go, you know something, I've got to start something on my own.
Yeah.
At the same time, I also, around 2004, I also changed the way that I looked at my own life and what I ate and drank. And so in 2004, I gave up alcohol, I gave up meat, I became much healthier. And I had a health problem prior to that with my, let's call them stomach area. And I went to visit this lady. I was actually, well, the story is, I'll tell you a little story because people love stories.
Yeah.
Whilst I was kind of immersed in the textile industry, my designer, there was a senior designer and we traveled to New York to see Victoria's Secrets. They were unknown in Europe, but they were a massive, big underwear brand in the United States. And we were there going to promote our new range to see if we could break into the US market with our fabrics. And incidentally, all the designers in the New York office were all British. So it was really easy to chat with them. But traveling on the plane, I was sharing with my colleague, the senior designer, that I had some health problems with my stomach. And she said, oh, you need to go and see such and such in Leicester and get some, kinesiology and blah, blah, blah. She said, Reiki, blah, blah. I said, stop. You're just talking Chinese to me. You might as well talk Chinese. What the hell are you talking about? Reiki, kinesiology. What is all this? So she started explaining it to me. I took the courage when I came back to the UK to go to this lady in Leicester called Terry Larder, and she kind of took hold of my arm, told me to meet the pressure, and she pushed down on my arm, put some test files on my body, supplements on my body, tested my arm again, tested my leg. She said, oh yeah, I know what you've got. You've got candida overgrowth. I said, what the hell is that? Is that some sexually transmitted disease or what? She said, no, it's not. Anyway, take these supplements, take this, stop eating bananas, do this, do the other. And within the space of 3 weeks, I was cured of the issue that I had. Now, my twin sister suffers with Crohn's disease.
Okay.
And I thought I was getting that, basically, because we're a twin, right?
Yeah.
And I was like copying her. But it wasn't at all. It was just some candida, which you can get through eating lots of sugar. And I used to eat a lot of sugar. I was a sugar junkie.
Yeah.
And I was overweight and everything else. And so this took me on a journey of kind of discovery, of finding out alternative health. And I ended up then waking up. I was living on my own and I had a dream, no word of a lie. And I woke up because I've been thinking about what shall I do then on my own, after having been on Robbins.
Yeah.
And I literally woke up one morning and I went, I want to become a nutritionist and teach people how to improve their life and their diet and food. And at that time, I'd lost, in the space of 3 months, I'd gone and improved my health and I'd lost like 44 pounds in 3 months.
Did you? Wow. That's amazing.
Which was just unbelievable.
Yeah.
I've never been able to repeat it.
No.
But, and that, on top of that, there was the whole Tony Robbins thing, that even pushed me through because I'd already started the journey in January of 2004. And when I got to April and then heard all the stuff around meat and alcohol that Tony and Joseph McClendon was sharing, I went, oh my God, I'm going in the right. And then I started a course on kinesiology to learn how to do muscle testing, which of course Tony uses for different reasons, but I wanted to do muscle testing for health. So I then was working, but then also studying kinesiology and health. Well, the reason I got into kinesiology, another quick story, is I rang this lady who treated me with kinesiology in Leicester, and I said, I want to become a nutritionist. How can I become one? She said, well, do you really want to do that? Why don't you become a kinesiologist? And I went, that's far too difficult. I could never do that. That's obviously, you shouldn't be saying things like that.
Yeah.
And she said, well, why don't you ring this nutritionist, who's now also a kinesiologist? She studied nutrition first, realized that she couldn't do enough for people, and then she searched for something else and became a kinesiologist. And now she uses both things and can do much more for people. So I rang this complete stranger, I don't even know her name, asked her that question, and she said, no, you've got to do kinesiology first and then do nutrition. Well, the course included nutrition anyway, so I spent then the next 3 years studying kinesiology and became a qualified kinesiologist. But my aim was never wanting to really be on the high street with a health shop.
No.
Plus, nobody had heard of kinesiology. No one could even spell it. And kinesiology, just very briefly, is the study of movement. That's what it means.
Okay.
And you kind of go, because they use it in sport, right?
Yeah, right.
But this is for health.
Okay.
This is for health. Every single muscle is connected to an organ in our body.
Yeah.
So if you move the muscle into a certain direction, you get a reading of what's going on there. If you put something into the energy field of the body or put something on your skin, the body knows what you're putting there. And all this communication goes to the hypothalamus in the brain, and the hypothalamus knows what's going on, and the muscle goes either weak or strong, depending whether a food or a substance or an emotion is good or bad for you.
Okay.
So it really just, it's like magic, and I loved it. But I didn't want to be on the high street treating Joe Public. I did do some of that in my home.
Right.
But that's not what I wanted to do. What I wanted to do, I had a much bigger idea. I wanted to go into companies and help them with the disease and the stress that was happening in the absenteeism inside of companies. I had a much bigger picture.
Right.
Much bigger dream.
Sounds exciting. Yeah.
It was hugely exciting. I've met this lady, Tracy Ann Croshaw, called Tian, who is a mind coach, and she does hypnotherapy. And the two of us joined forces to work together, and we ran a program called Mind Your Wellness. And by the way, hence my company name, which is called Staying Alive UK.
Yeah, yeah.
And literally that name also came up in a dream. I literally woke up with the name Staying Alive. Wow. And of course, it was really effective because everybody knows Staying Alive, the song.
Yeah, yeah,
so
yeah.
when you say Staying Alive, that's the first thing people hear in their head.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
from a
yeah.
marketing point of view,
it's good, isn't it?
It just worked.
It really it's like linking one thing to like a good thing, isn't it? You know, it was such an upbeat and great song, and I like that. That's a really good marketing idea, I think.
I didn't realise it's the famous song on the planet, the most famous
really?
song on the planet. Yes,
Wow.
yes.
Wow.
Staying Alive is like apart from Happy Birthday, I think Staying Alive is the next one. So we ran these programs, public programs called Mind Your Wellness, and that was to help people. We had like a wellness inventory that people filled out. I also learned something called psychocalisthenics, which is a 17-minute exercise that allows you to get energy into the body, which is great to do even before you meditate. And I learned that as well. So we had this amazing program. We ran workshops in Wales. And then we wanted to break into companies together. So my first meeting with a company in Yorkshire, I won't mention the name. It's a bank, famous bank in Yorkshire. You're from that part of the world.
I am indeed.
And sitting opposite the human resources director, who was male, and his assistant, who was female. I mention it on purpose because of what happens next. And we have this wellness inventory, and it allows people. And now this was 2007, right? This is a long time ago.
Okay. Yeah, yeah.
Looking after people's health in organizations was not a buzzword. It wasn't something that people did, right? If people had stress, they would go, sort it out, basically.
Yeah, don't be so soft.
Yeah.
Especially in Yorkshire.
Especially in Yorkshire. Yeah, well, wait for it. And then on this inventory, which I got from America, I had the license from America to use, because people ask questions, and you get this little pie chart that says whether you're doing high or low in these areas. So, like, are you standing regularly? So movement was one of them. You know, exercise was another. Eating was another one. And it gives you all these questions, and then you get this little pie chart. But there was also a category called love.
Okay.
And the guy turned round and said, no, sorry, we can't do this. We don't do love here. That's exactly what he said.
All you need is love. I've heard that song before as well. We don't do love. Right.
And that was my first meeting. I was totally devastated when I walked out. I went, oh my God, this is not going to work, right? And I'd driven up miles. I mean, you've just been up north, and it's like very long way. I'd driven up miles, and I was so despondent to take the drive all the way down. But not despair. Tracy Ann, has contacts in Virgin. Went, yes, Virgin. So we managed to get into Virgin Trains.
Wow.
And they were so impressed by the look of our program and the workshop that we delivered, because we delivered like a little bit of facts. We got a bit of engagement in the room.
Okay.
We did a bit of meditation with some music, some really powerful music. And Tracy Ann took them through like a visualization.
Right.
They went, right, first of all, can you do it on the training managers? And we went, yeah, we'll do. And if the training managers like it, then we're going to roll it out to the rest of our company.
Okay.
Training managers loved it. Had a lovely lunch with the HR director in Birmingham, where Virgin Trains are based.
Yeah.
And the head office is based. And yeah, all systems go. We want to do this, but we want to give you a challenge. Can you do this on the long-term sick that have been absent for years? Because it's costing us literally millions.
It just shows you the value in something like that, doesn't it?
Yeah, and we said, yeah, we're going to go for that. Absolutely. Brilliant. Fantastic. Everybody was like happy. Then, this was 2007. On the 15th of September, which is my birthday,
right,
Northern Rock happens. Northern Rock goes pop. There's a run on the bank. The start of the recession. The start of the default credit swaps, whatever you want to call it. It all started going pear-shaped.
That was the first thing we heard about.
We chased them. Eventually, we heard from January, like second, third week in January, saying, actually, guys, there's a lot of stuff going on in the market. We're really sorry. We're not going to be able to do anything here. We're not going to run the program. Well, Steve, I was still quite early on in running my business. And I hadn't quite differentiated the difference between yourself and your business, right? So I thought I was the business. So I took it so personally, it rocked my world tremendously. And I literally just lost all faith in the whole thing. So money was running out, maxed out on credit cards, on second mortgages, you name it. Not a good place to be at all. I needed to earn money. So my sister, Trudy, I better mention her name, Trudy introduced me to an e-learning company who then I did some freelance sales for. And I'll quickly fast forward. That lasted about, let's call it 18 months, 2 years. And I was telling the boss that really he needed to focus on social media, because social media started to emerge in like 2008, 2009. And he went, no, that's just not going to happen. I don't want to know what people have had for their breakfast and their coffees and this, that, the other, Twitter. And I said, no, but there's another program called LinkedIn that I'm on. No, it's just not going to happen. Anyway, I was then interviewed for a sales director role in that company. It pitched up against other people and had to do all sorts of really tricky kind of test interviews with, okay, this is a phone call you're going to have with a client. What do you say? anyway, I failed it. But it was a massive gift. So I went packing, I went away, and I was then headhunted by and by the way, this was an e-learning company who didn't use video. They only had text-based e-learning, which was dreadful because I also said to them, you need to have video.
Yeah.
I mean, they've corrected it since after I left. But anyway, then I was approached by a video e-learning company in London.
Right.
And I did some freelance sales for them.
Okay.
But unfortunately, we couldn't agree contract terms in terms of my commission because people I was introducing also wanted to become resellers. And I went, hold on a minute. I'm not going to earn from those people because they're also becoming resellers. And they went, yeah, well, reselling is not part of the contract. I said, well, can we rewrite the contract, please? They went, yeah, go ahead. So I spent a lot of money with a lawyer rewriting the contract. Anyway, it didn't end well. I basically redid the contract, spent money on it, and I never heard back. And I went, okay. I was not met. That's when I realized I had all these messages. And I was basically told, Michael, you're not supposed to work for anybody. Mm-hmm. You got to work for yourself.
Yeah.
And
fantastic.
I still haven't learned the lesson, but I won't go into that.
Okay.
So I went, okay, one great gift at this video learning company, they showed me how to create these little animations that we talked about right at the beginning with short, like images, voiceover and text and whatever to create little adverts and stuff, which they use for their kind of e-learning.
Yeah.
And I learned how to create that, and that took me on this journey. Now, when I was with the other e-learning company, I came across something called whiteboard animation that I'd never seen before, where you see a hand drawing a picture on a whiteboard, right?
Yeah.
I tracked down the company who were in Brighton, not far from where you are now, and finally got hold of them. And basically, they made them for a company, and people check them out. It's called RSA Animate, the Royal Society of Arts. And they had something called RSA Animate, which were about 15, 20-minute lectures that they animated. So all you could hear was the voice of the lecture and this animation going.
Okay.
And I was mesmerized by this. I went, oh, my God, this is amazing.
Wow, fantastic.
So I phoned them up. I was like, tell me, what's the cost for doing something like that? And they went, are you sitting down? I said, first of all, we have a 6 to 12-month waiting list.
Wow.
Because it's so popular. And secondly, to do one of those, it's going to cost you 15 grand.
Wow.
So I went, no way my boss is going to pay for that.
No.
This was the first e-learning company.
Yeah.
Anyway, and indeed, there was no way he could afford it.
Okay.
But I kept it in my head. And then after I learned the other skill with this other video e-learning company and did this all it was round about the same time when I moved from Microsoft to Mac.
Okay.
And I've got all these amazing tools on my Mac now that I had never come across.
Yeah.
So I was doing all of this kind of practicing on video and learning online and this, that, and the other. And I was like, oh, I don't know where I'm going with all of this, you know.
Yeah.
And then out of the blue, I don't even know how I came across it. Somebody came out with a piece of software that allows you to do these whiteboard animations that were being done by hand through stop motion filming.
Okay.
And I went, amazing. So I practiced and I practiced and I practiced for hours to learn this skill, to master my craft.
Yeah.
And then coupled with that, learning how to write stories and scripts and making it engaging and interesting. Then moving away from stock art to getting illustrators to draw bespoke art, teaching them how they need to get the files to me so that I could take their files and produce it, and finding voiceovers and getting voiceovers to read the script and giving them instructions, and then finding music and putting music together.
Wow.
So it's literally been hours, days, months, years of honing my craft.
Honing that craft. Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah, learning how to do this. And that has brought me to a place where I kept the company name, and what I call myself now is Chief Storyteller at Staying Alive UK.
Yeah, brilliant.
And we produce bespoke, visually impactful cartoons, animation campaigns, where we engage audiences in giving them a unique insight into an organization's story and value proposition.
Fantastic.
And then, on top of that, literally in the last 12 to 18 months, I'm now also delivering storytelling workshops and teaching small businesses how they can, not the animation part, but how they can speak and share their story more elegantly through storytelling, rather than go at a networking event. Hi, I'm Michael. I create animations.
Okay, great. Just, I want to hear more about that, Michael, in a couple of seconds. But just to let you know, I've just noticed the system that we use for podcasts has actually got a limit on time. So we've got about 4 minutes left to talk about that. So just what I didn't want to do is get to the end and have to rush it. So just to let you know that. So tell us a little bit more about what you're doing and how you can maybe help people, I think.
Right, great question. So the headline is, how do you stand out from the crowd? How is your marketing, and you're a marketing professional,
indeed,
how is your marketing going to be different?
Yeah.
Right? So we all know adverts, and the first question I always ask people says, do you like the adverts? And I get a mixed response. But when I ask people, so, okay, tell me the last advert you saw, which one can you remember? And people can't really remember any, apart from one. And that is the Christmas John Lewis advert.
Yes, yeah.
Well, we know, of course, that the Christmas John Lewis, and we're talking about the UK here, the Christmas John Lewis advert, of course, is a story.
Yeah, it is.
Right? And therefore, that's why they remember it.
Yeah.
And it invokes an emotion of some kind.
Yeah.
And that's why they remember it.
Yeah.
Then when I say to people, okay, what about the movies? And all hands go up. Yeah, we love the movies. I said, do you go to the cinema? Yeah, we go to the cinema. I said, do you watch Netflix? Yeah, we watch Netflix. I said, well, what is it about the movies you love? And of course, everybody realizes when they're in a storytelling workshop, it's the story.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But then it's like, well, why do you stay in a movie? Right, first of all, you can't even remember adverts that are literally 30 seconds long, that are 30 seconds long, can't remember the advert. But you go to a movie which is 3 hours long and you can remember the movie, right?
Yeah.
So what's the difference apart from storytelling? Because if you went to the movie and they told you the whole plot in the first 30 seconds, you wouldn't even have a chance to finish your popcorn.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. Yeah.
I'm conscious now. Are you running out of time now?
No, we're now down to 1:44. So, you're absolutely right. Stories are a real key, I think, to marketing. And I love your analogy about, standing out. I call it being outstanding by standing out, and it doesn't mean you got to be the best, but just be different, really, and I think stories are a fantastic sort of tool. So we need to sort of think about bringing it to a close. So what I'm really keen to do is get an understanding of what people, if people want to perhaps hire you, go on your workshops and so on, what do they need to do? What's the best action for them to take?
Well, the best action for them to take is they can Google, if they just Google at Staying Alive UK, they will find everything about me. That'd be the easiest route to go. They'll find my website, my LinkedIn, my Twitter, etc.
Okay.
So all they need to do is look for at Staying Alive UK or go to stayingaliveuk.com and send me a message through there. And obviously I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on Twitter, and I pretty much use the same handle everywhere else.
Okay, great.
I'm not active not active on the devil, which I call Facebook and Instagram.
Okay.
And that's for personal reasons, because I have a love-hate relationship with Mark Zuckerberg.
Okay.
And but everywhere else you